The Pacific Ocean covers more than 30% of the Earth's surface. It is a kinetic, aggressive environment, completely devoid of landmarks. This grid of the Pacific shows how land masses are tiny dots scattered across millions of square miles of open water. Reaching a specific island without modern instruments borders on a statistical impossibility. Because of that immense scale, European historians traditionally assumed early indigenous migration was an accident. This historical maritime chart of the Pacific illustrates the European reliance on rigid tools and paper maps. The assumption was that without these specific tools, ancient peoples simply drifted on currents until they hit land. Modern experimental voyages have definitively corrected that narrative. When exact replica vessels like the Hokulia successfully navigated thousands of miles of open water, they proved that ancient mariners actively drove their path across the sea. Proving this was an intentional act requires a look at their physical tools, which reveals a sophisticated framework of early scientific engineering. The foundation of this engineering is the wa'akaulua, or double-hulled canoe. By joining two long hulls, builders created a massive footprint capable of surviving extreme ocean swells. Traditional European shipbuilders used iron nails to hold thick wooden planks rigidly in place. In a violent storm, extreme kinetic stress frequently caused those rigid metal fasteners to snap under pressure. The Polynesian solution avoided rigidity entirely. They connected heavy timbers using dense coconut fiber ropes. Because the vessel is stitched together, it is mechanically flexible. When struck by waves, the lashings stretch, allowing the structure to bend and absorb kinetic energy. The vessel's propulsion system was similarly robust. Their dense, rigid sails were woven directly from dried pandanus leaves. This vector diagram illustrates the aerodynamics involved. The unique crab claw shape of the sails generates lift, allowing navigators to actively tack and move at sharp angles into a headwind. This craft flexes under the weight of the ocean and actively sails against the wind, operating as a responsive machine engineered for a high-pressure environment. Beyond the boat itself, the pilot turned the natural world into a readable, high-fidelity instrument panel. A master navigator trained for years to physically read the ocean's pulse. Sitting inside the wooden hull, they could feel the distinct rhythms and deep rolling patterns of ocean swells passing beneath them. This animated diagram demonstrates wave refraction. When deep ocean swells hit a solid landmass, the land bends and reflects those waves outward in circular ripples, creating an invisible physical footprint in the water that remains detectable hundreds of miles out. At night, the sky functioned as a vast rotating compass. Navigators meticulously memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, using their positions over the horizon to lock in precise bearings. During the day, they tracked the flight paths of migratory land birds. Knowing which species ventured out to sea allowed them to use the birds as living homing beacons pointing toward land. Synthesizing the interaction between wave refraction, precise stellar alignment, and avian flight paths required immense, continuous mental calculation. The combination of flexible marine mechanics and rigorous ecological data processing leaves zero room for the theory of accidental drifting. Where European explorers often viewed the expansive Pacific as a terrifying barrier, the Polynesians understood it as a massive connected highway. Because they didn't rely on paper records, this complex scientific data was coded into oral histories, chants, and ancestral songs, preserving navigation metrics across generations. Using pure observation and refined physics, these ancient scientists successfully traversed the largest ocean on Earth. Acknowledging this indigenous mastery enriches the archives of human history, proving that sophisticated technology and exact science do not always require metal.